Now that's a book that seems to have a lot of pages of lore. Well, who wants to read it? In fact, this is not the only one we're going to be reading. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new series of vids I decided to do. Legion is one of my favorite expansions in World of Warcraft. I absolutely loved playing multiple classes in it, going through the different class hall campaigns, and I really loved the whole concept of the artifact weapons because I loved the idea of us kind of getting attached to a weapon and having it grow in power along with us. It was just a concept I really enjoyed. How we got some of these weapons was kind of interesting, and so I decided, perhaps for those who may not be entirely familiar with some of the lore, not just in general, but of some of these weapons, why don't we go ahead and open up a book? Let's take a look. It's in a book. Sorry. But why don't we go ahead and read some of the lore on some of these artifact weapons with each of the different specs for each of the different classes, which I do have one of each. And I decided, why don't we just start this off with my main, which of course is my Shaman here. And we are currently in, I know it's labeled as the Heart of Azeroth, but it's the Maelstrom. And I just love the Shaman Order Hall. Is one of my absolute favorite Order Halls in this game. I mean, just everything about this is just fantastic, with all the melding of all the various different elements here. Fire, earth over there, sky and water over here, with all the waves crashing at the little altar we have over there, which is where we change the appearances of our artifact weapons. It's alright. Grabbed a few bottles of water because I'm going to be doing a lot of reading and talking during this. That's all this is mainly going to consist of, so I'm just giving you guys a heads up. For those of you who are not really interested in just sitting here and watching a video of me reading text out of this book, me talking, then you may want to just go ahead and bow out now. I wouldn't blame you. I wouldn't blame you at all if this is not really your thing. For those of you who perhaps are interested in some of this and perhaps have been looking for a vid of someone reading this lore on some of these weapons, in case perhaps you have heard about this and maybe you haven't actually participated in Legion at all. I've been running into some players recently that they either were just now getting into the game and either didn't play Legion at all, or maybe they were just now starting to touch Legion content. And as someone who absolutely loves this expansion, I always keep encouraging people to go check out Legion, go do the Legion content, because a lot of it is just really good and really enjoyable, in my opinion, for me personally. I've heard some people didn't like this, and that's fine. But for those who are interested and want to hear from someone who really did enjoy it, especially if you want to know about the weapons you're going to be acquiring in this, depending on what class you're in, I hope this is a series you can be able to enjoy. I love this effect, by the way, that Shaman gets. I don't think I can show it. Okay. It's hidden by this interface up here for the class halls, but there's a buff here that you get when you come here to the... oh, wait, no. It's not going to let me show it to you guys, but there's a buff here that you get, which is basically what you're seeing here. It's an effect that you get in the Order Hall that increases your movement speed, but I just love this visual of you are... you're the Farseer of the Earthen Ring, and you are so in touch with the elements as a shaman that you are, like, just... the power of the elements is just coursing through you, and you can see it with lava and ice and water and wind, and just it's just such a cool looking effect for a shaman. I love it, absolutely love it. So we're going to be starting off. The first one we're going to start off with is the artifact weapon for the Elemental spec, spellcaster who harnesses the destructive power forces of nature and the elements. This is the Fist of Raw Den. It's a fist weapon along with a shield. This is the secret appearance for the weapon that you can get. And now let's go ahead and read up on some of the lore about this, in case you're curious about what it says. The first part To seal Alakir's demise, Master Ra slammed his fist into the mountaintop. The heavens split wide, and all the fire and fury they contained crashed down atop the Wind Lord's head. Ra and Helia crafted a shield, the High Keeper's Ward, to act as a key to the elemental plane. It thrummed within the energies of the four elements, which Ra could call upon whenever he desired. The mythical High Keeper Ra bore two great items in his battles against the old gods. One was the Fist of Ra-Den, a weapon infused with the destructive might of storms. The other was the High Keeper's Ward, a shield pulsing with the primordial elements of fire, earth, air, and water. No one has successfully wielded these armaments since they passed from Ra's care. Even Lei Shen, the Thunder King and Emperor of the Mogu, could not. Will you succeed where he failed? Before we continue, in case you need a reminder, as we look at the Mists of Pandaria Throne of Thunder raid, whoops. This is Ra-Den. This is the Fallen Keeper of Storms. These were his weapons. So let's read up on this. It is known that the Titan, Aman'Thul, crafted the Fist of Ra-Den. How he did so is another question. According to one legend, Aman'Thul called on mysterious celestial beings to forge an instrument that would hold sway over the power of storms. These creatures reached into Azeroth's sky and took a single bolt of lightning, which they shaped with their hands as if it were mere clay. When the craftsmen had finished their work, Aman'Thul encased the captured lightning in stone and branded the rock with Titan runes of containment. Aman'Thul gave his lightning-infused weapon to Ra, one of the legendary Titan forged. Sorry, I was kind of trying to come up with a good angle here to show off the weapon here. The actual fist. Ignore the other players just kind of wandering around me. This is just how it is. One of the legendary Titan forged. These stone and iron-skinned giants were created by the Titans to liberate Azeroth from the old gods. In case you were curious about what Ra-Den actually was. The old gods were immensely powerful, and their minions were beyond count. But never for a moment did Ra and his allies hesitate. Under the guidance of Aman'Thul and the other Titans, the noble giants defeated the old gods and shackled them in prisons buried deep under the earth. Ra accomplished many feats during this war. He wielded lightning with the lethal accuracy of a blade, carving through the old gods' servants and reducing them to cinders. There was only one enemy who matched Ra's command over storms, the cunning elemental lord known as Alakir. From an ancient Mogu legend detailing the battle fought by Ra and his allies against Alakir, the Wind Lord. Master Ra and his brethren pursued the Wind Lord to a mountain so high it scraped the belly of the heavens. All the while Alakir boasted of his coming victory, but his words were as empty as air. True, he was great and powerful. True, he could command the storms. But he did not breathe thunder and speak lightning as Master Ra did. He did not wield the fist that breaks the sky. Master Ra and his kin turned Alakir's own tempests against him until the Wind Lord faltered. To seal Alakir's demise, Master Ra slammed his fist into the mountaintop. The heavens split wide, and all the fire and fury they contained crashed down atop the Wind Lord's head. An excerpt from The Banishing of the Elemental Lords by the historian Lore. The Elemental Lords served as the old gods' greatest lieutenants, and the Titan Forged had defeated them all. The victory was momentous, but it also presented a unique challenge. The spirits of the elemental lords were bound to Azeroth. If the Titan Forge destroyed them, they would eventually manifest on the world again. To prevent this, High Keeper Ra decided to imprison the destructive beings. He worked alongside the Titan Forge sorceress Helia to create a pocket dimension that would be known as the Elemental Plane. It included 4 domains representing the 4 elements: fire, air, earth, and water. Into this prison realm, Ra and Helia banished the elemental lords and almost all of their servants. Ra and Helia crafted a shield, the High Keeper's Ward, to act as a key to the elemental plane. It thrummed with the energies of the 4 elements, which Ra could call upon whenever he desired. After the old gods were defeated, Ra and his allies created new kinds of Titan Forge to protect and reshape Azeroth. Among them were the mighty stone-skinned Mogu, led by Ra. They journeyed to the southern reaches of the world and began their long guardianship. Remember, Pandaria is in the southern portion of Azeroth. Aman'Thul and his fellow Titans closely watched these events unfold. Confident that Azeroth was safe in the hands of their servants, they eventually departed the world. On a stormy day, Ra and his Mogu followers ascended a colossal mountain to see the Titans off. The legends say that the High Keeper slammed his weapon against his shield, and the elements answered to his will. The rains ceased and the clouds parted. The mountain at their feet rose higher, and lightning and fire illuminated the skies so that Ra and his followers could better glimpse the Titans. Lastly, the winds howled a sorrowful farewell. An excerpt from The Rise of the Thunder King by the historian Lore. Many ages after the Titans left Azeroth, a strange affliction called the Curse of Flesh took hold among the Mogu. It weakened their stone forms and transformed them into creatures of flesh and blood. The Mogu fragmented into warring clans. For years upon years, they fought each other for control of Azeroth's southern lands. From this crucible of violence, one Mogu emerged and forged his people into an empire. His name was Lei Shen, the Thunder King, and his strength was without equal. Many tales exist about how Lei Shen acquired his power. The most widely accepted theory is that he stole it from a legendary being named Ra Den, which means Master Ra, in the Mogu tongue. But what of this creature's fabled artifacts, the Fist of Ra Den and the High Keeper's Ward? Surely Lei Shen would have taken them as well, but there is very little mention of the Thunder King using them. For all his might, Lei Shen could not harness the energies of the Fist of Ra Den and the High Keeper's Ward. His inability to do so infuriated him. After all, Lei Shen had conquered the Mogu and forged them into an empire. He had defeated Ra. How could 2 artifacts defy his will? But defy him they did. The shield and the fist weapon were simply too much even for the Thunder King to control. Every time he tried to use the artifacts, elemental energies lashed out at Lei Shen and overwhelmed him. Despite these repeated failures, Lei Shen did not give up. One way or another, he would harness the power of these ancient weapons. Lei Shen gave the Fist of Ra Den and the High Keeper's Ward to a gifted blacksmith, Forge Master Deng. The Thunder King ordered him to unlock the artifact secrets, but he also warned the artisan not to harness their power for himself, or he would suffer grave consequences. Deng promised Lei Shen that he would follow his command, but he secretly plotted to disobey his master. The blacksmith reasoned that if he could find a way to use the weapon and the shield, something the Thunder King had been able to do, he could take control over the Mogu Empire himself. While Deng was tampering with the Fist of Ra Den, A bolt of lightning tore down from the sky and slammed into him. The artifact absorbed most of the energy, which saved the blacksmith's life. But Dang did not escape unharmed. The lightning left him forever disfigured. After much experimentation, Dang found a purpose for the Fist of Ra-Den and the High Keeper's Ward. He used the two artifacts to power an immense engine known as the Thunder Forge. This machine churned day and night, creating armaments of exceptional quality for the Mogu military. Lei Shen was pleased by the work, and he ordered Dang to personally craft him weapons and armor that would put all others to shame. The blacksmith toiled over the Thunder Forge to satisfy his master. Dang's labors gave rise to what would be his three greatest creations: a massive spear, a battle axe, and a mighty helm. In time, Dang and Lei Shen died. The Mogu Empire crumbled. Seasons passed. The world changed. A race known as the Pandaren came to power in the lands once lorded over by the Mogu. The new rulers governed with wisdom and benevolence, unlike Lei Shen and his brutal kin. Under the Pandaren, an era of relative peace and prosperity settled over the region. Thousands of years after the fall of the Mogu Empire, a group of Pandaren guardians called the Shadowpan discovered the artifacts that had powered the Thunder Forge. These explorers were led by Master Juan Snowdrift, who was unaware of the dangerous energies stored in the items that he had found. Snowdrift took up the Fist of Ra-Den, and he was immediately struck by a spear of lightning that seared his flesh and scarred his body. Though he was injured, Master Juan Snowdrift survived his encounter with the Fist of Ra-Den, and he and the other Shadowpan feared that the weapon and its counterpart shield could do grave harm to the world if they fell into the wrong hands. To prevent this, they took the artifacts to Zuen, the White Tiger. The White Tiger was one of the august Celestials, ancient and incredibly powerful creatures, revered by the Pandaren. Wise Zuen agreed with the Shadowpan's assessment of the weapon and the shield. He secured them within his lair, the Temple of the White Tiger, where they would be safe. Yet Zuen did not plan to keep them there forever. He knew the history of the artifacts. Though the Mogu had used them for evil, the Titan Amantul had originally created them for good. Zuen believed that it was only a matter of time before a mortal arrived who was fit to wield the weapon and the shield for their intended purpose. And that leads directly into the quest, where we, the player, teams up with Rhaegar. Rhaegar takes us to Pandaria, and Zuen, who I want to remind you is a Loa. He's referred to as a Celestial, but he's also basically a Loa, and he represents the concept of courage. He's basically the Loa of courage. And he puts us through a couple of trials, and we are given them to try and wield them, and the power becomes a little overwhelming, but then we're able to kind of get control of them and master them to use them against the Legion, and that's where we are now. Alright, so up next, one of my personal favorite artifact weapons. In fact, this was the one I heard about that got me motivated to level this guy all the way to this expansion. The Doomhammer. One of the most iconic and well-known weapons of lore in this setting. This is the secret appearance, kind of a Zandalari look for the Doomhammer. Forged in elemental fury, handed down from generation to generation, a harbinger of destruction to all who oppose it. The Doomhammer is prophesied to bring about both salvation and doom. Some of the most renowned orcs in history have possessed the Doomhammer: Blackhand, Orgrim, Thrall, and now it passes to you. In your hands, the Doomhammer carries the potential for either victory or ruin. Let's see if it covers some of the lore that I know from a couple of the books, like Lord of the Clans, which I highly recommend. Really good book. At least I thought it was. The Doomhammer's origins have been traced to the Ogre Empire's rise to power on Draenor and to an orc named Gelnar. It is said that Gelnar, faced with the problem of preventing the orcs from being enslaved by the ogres, wandered alone in contemplation for days upon days. When a mighty storm forced him to take shelter in a Gorgron steam cavern, Gelnar experienced fever-inducing visions. Pledging his body and spirit to the elements, he submerged himself in a pool of lava and was miraculously unharmed. According to legend, the head of the Doomhammer was coaxed forth from the heart of Draenor itself. When Gelnar later crafted an oaken handle, the forming of the Doomhammer was complete. From that day forward, both the weapon and the name Doomhammer would be passed down from father to eldest son. I'm going to take a moment to have a drink here. From the writings of Tala Kolgar, Orc Shaman, our clan faced an army of ogre invaders. Gelnar raised the Doomhammer to the sky, and it spoke. It spoke in fire and lightning. Thunder rolled through the blackened clouds above, shaking the very ground beneath our feet. Draenor boomed with all its fury. Rain anointed us with the elements' blessing. And as Gelnar rushed toward the enemy, I knew that somehow our clan would survive. Emboldened and with a fierce war cry upon our lips, we charged forward to meet our fate. There was a long-standing prophecy associated with the Doomhammer. The last of the Doomhammer line will use it to bring first salvation and then doom to the orc people. Then it will pass into the hands of one who is not of the Blackrock clan. All will change again, and it will once again be used in the cause of justice. Many thought for a long time this was referring to Thrall. However, it very nicely slides in to referring to us. For generations, the Doomhammer was passed from father to eldest son upon the father's death. The chain was temporarily broken when a young Orgrim Doomhammer took the weapon to the lava pool where it had been created. There he attempted to negate the prophecy associated with it, while retaining the hammer's power. The pool reclaimed the weapon from Orgrim. It remained in the lava until an orc chieftain, clearing his mind of pride and dreams of glory, reached in and took the Doomhammer in his grasp. Though the lava left him permanently scarred, the chieftain did not die. From that day forward, that chieftain would be known as Blackhand. Blackhand used the Doomhammer to forge weapons and help fight off an invading ogre army. When the battle was complete, Blackhand returned the weapon to Orgrim, who would carry it until his death. Throughout the first war between orcs and humans, Orgrim Doomhammer crushed enemies with the weapon of his namesake, blazing a path of destruction through one settlement after another. As the war drew to a close, Orgrim used the Doomhammer to kill his commander, Blackhand, and claim the title of War Chief of the Horde. Doomhammer in hand, Orgrim led the charge against the human capital of Stormwind, sacking it and winning a decisive victory for the orcs. From the writings of General Turalian, recounting the battle between Orgrim Doomhammer and Lord Anduin Lothar. Those are names you should definitely know and be familiar with. I drove my way through friend and foe alike in an effort to reach the two combatants. A massive blow from Orgrim crumbled Lothar's shield, but our leader answered with a fierce strike of his own, nearly rending the orc commander's breastplate. Orgrim took his armor free even as Lothar discarded his shield. The two re-engaged, trading vicious blows. Punishment and pain were dealt and endured. Orgrim punched, forcing Lord Lothar back. The orc followed with an overhead swing that our leader attempted to block. But before my horrified eyes, the massive hammer clove through the mighty blade of Stormwind, smashing down into the helm of our beloved commander. With his broken blade and his final breath, Lord Lothar opened a gash across the chest of Orgrim. Then, the Lion of Azeroth fell, his life's essence draining out onto the battlefield. In the aftermath of the Second War, Orgrim Doomhammer went into hiding. It was his desire to liberate his fellow orcs from human internment camps, but he needed a strong ally. He would find that comrade in an orc raised by humans, Thrall. Upon first meeting the hooded Orgrim, Thrall was unaware of the stranger's identity. When Thrall challenged him to a fight at the camp of the Frostwolves, the former chieftain accepted. By the way, if you want more on the lead up and build up to this moment, check out the book that I talked about earlier, Lord of the Clans, where it focused a lot on Thrall and his upbringing in that human settlement, and how he was raised up to be a gladiator for a horrible drunken lord's amusement, while also his own ambitious plans to basically take over the human kingdom of Stormwind. And he eventually escaped with the help of another human, and found his way to the Frostwolf clan home, because he knew of his, he found out about his parents being Frostwolves, and that's where he met Drekthar, where he eventually met Orgrim. Thrall quickly proved his mettle, trading blows with the armored combatant, grappling with him, and at one point successfully wrenching the Doomhammer from the other orc's grasp. By the end of the bout, Orgrim was so pleased with his opponent's tenacity that he named Thrall his second in command. An account of the death of Orgrim Doomhammer by War Chief Thrall. I was outraged. Orgrim lay there, dying, attacked from behind. The lance haft still protruded from his back. This was a cowardly act. I knelt beside him. My lord was all I could manage to say. My mentor then told me that I must carry on, that he had led the horde once, but it was not his destiny to do so again. At last, he said, yours is the title of War Chief Thrall, son of Durotan. You will wear my armor and carry my hammer. When a dying Orgrim Doomhammer bequeathed his armor and hammer to Thrall, the young orc felt that he was unworthy of such an honor. Orgrim told Thrall that there was no one breathing who was worthier. The last words of Orgrim Doomhammer to Thrall were, you will lead them to victory, and you will lead them to peace. Orgrim expired in Thrall's arms. To show that the orcs were not without a leader, Thrall took on the old warrior's armor. Once the plate mail was secured, Thrall bent down and picked up the Doomhammer, passed on not from father to son, but from mentor to student. Over many years, the appearance of the Doomhammer has changed, based on alterations made by its owners. In the possession of Thrall, a Frostwolf symbol was added to the head of the hammer to honor his ancestral clan. The newly modified Doomhammer quickly became an icon of strength and justice. Most importantly, though, it served as a symbol of hope for all orcs. Long ago, before Orgrim passed the Doomhammer to Thrall, he confided that although the weapon had once brought him closer to the elements, over time it had become a dead weight in his hands. Through the years, Thrall wielded the Doomhammer with honor and integrity. However, following his execution of the malign warchief Garrosh Hellscream, Thrall felt conflicted. This internal struggle was reflected in the Doomhammer as well. In Thrall's mind, the weapon that had embodied the ideals of justice and virtue had now come to represent vengeance. History repeated itself as the Doomhammer had once again become a dead weight. This has caused many to wonder whether the Doomhammer will reclaim its place as a symbol of righteous wrath, which we pretty much try to do during our time in Legion with it. And it's a big reason why, no matter what weapon my enhancement shaman is wielding, I always love being able to use the transmog appearance of such a great weapon. And now for restoration, the healing spec. And a weapon that actually is going to make an appearance in late BFA, based on what I've seen in Nazjatar. This is a shield and I believe it's a mace. Yeah, it's a one-handed mace. Let me get back to where we were. This is Sharastal, the Scepter of Tides. By merely touching Sharastal, one can feel the weight of the world's oceans at their fingertips. This extraordinary scepter can command the rivers and the seas, and even manipulate life itself. Just like the tides, Sharastal's power can ebb and flow between acts of good and evil. Some have used the scepter to destroy, but its true potential lies in its ability to serve as a fount of healing and hope. The ancient Night Elf Empire was one of the greatest mortal civilizations that ever spanned the lands of Azeroth. Well, next to the Troll Empire before that, but don't tell Night Elves that. At its apex, one figure held sway over it all. Her name was Azshara. Pretty relevant name right now these days, isn't it? She was a leader of leaders, a queen of queens. Her power was absolute, and her thirst for knowledge and glory was unquenchable. Of the records that speak of Azshara, nearly all mention her bejeweled scepter called Sharastal. The legends claim it granted the queen command over the world's seas, among other miraculous feats. So cherished was this scepter that Azshara rarely let it out of her sight. It was with her when she raised the Night Elf Empire to new heights, and it was with her when she later brought the civilization crashing down in blood and fire. An excerpt from the coronation of Queen Azshara. For days the coronation ceremony went on. Each night the high-born nobility lavished precious gifts on Azshara to curry her favor. But there was one she cherished more than all the others. A night elf named Lord Xavius, another relevant name there, presented the queen with a jeweled scepter etched with delicate magical sigils. He promised Azshara that as long as she kept it close, it would bring her prosperity and great power. Azshara held the scepter aloft, and the jewels shimmered in the light of the moons like brilliant stars. The sight of the queen and her gift was so beautiful that it brought many of the attendant highborn to tears. At the heart of ancient Azeroth sat a massive lake of scintillating energy called the Well of Eternity. For decades, the Night Elves studied this fount of arcane magic, and they became learned sorcerers. Queen Azshara carried on this tradition, as did her loyal highborn servitors. They devoted themselves to plumbing the Well of Eternity's depths in search of knowledge and power. Perhaps no one was more suited to this task than Azshara. She was one of the greatest magic users who had ever lived. As she honed her command over the lake's energies, she infused a drop of its living waters into her bejeweled scepter. Queen Azshara's enchanted scepter afforded her great power. Imbued with the Well of Eternity's potent waters, it held sway over the rivers and the seas, aquatic creatures of all kinds, and the life energies that stirred within Azshara herself. She granted it a new name, one befitting its remarkable properties: Sharastal, Scepter of Tides. One of the first things Ajara did with Sharastal was use its power to enhance her legendary beauty. As the years wore on, the queen seemed to grow younger and more mesmerizing. A brilliant aura enveloped Ajara, enthralling those who looked upon her. The highborn marveled at this strange phenomenon. A few even took it as a sign of divinity. An excerpt from Glory to the Queen, Born of Stars. Of the wonders our queen brought to this world, perhaps none was so great as Latharlazal. As masons constructed the temple, Ajara shaped the waters around it with a scepter of tides. She spoke the names of the rivers and the seas, and they moved at her command. Salt water from the roaring ocean and fresh water from the mountain streams trickled to Ajara's side. With the flick of her wrist, the queen partitioned them into great lakes that hugged Latharlazal's sturdy foundation. Creatures of all kinds populated these waters, and they were at Ajara's beck and call. Whenever she walked the bridges of Latharlazal, nearby schools of exotic fish would array themselves in colorful patterns. She even kept a colossal sea giant bound to one of the lakes. She used her scepter to make him perform tricks and feats of strength, much to the delight of the watching highborn. Curious night elves from the far corners of the empire journeyed to Latharlazal to study the mythical creature and his habits. Take a moment to drink again. Much better. As the Night Elf Empire stretched across the world, Ajara spent more and more time in her palace at the Well of Eternity's shores. She obsessed over the lake and used Sharastal to manipulate its mysterious energies. Ajara dreamed of making the world into a paradise. Her paradise. But it would only be possible if she and her highborn servitors could harness the Well of Eternity's true potential. Their reckless experiments eventually sent arcane magic crashing through the twisting nether, the realm of demons. In time, the Burning Legion learned of the Well of Eternity and the world of Azeroth. So you can pretty much just blame Ajara for this whole debacle with the Burning Legion trying to get here, especially with Sargeras as well. An excerpt from The War of the Ancients by the historian Lore. Ajara's obsession with remaking the world led her straight into the clutches of the Legion's ruler, Sargeras. The Queen forged a pact with him for unfathomable power. All that Sargeras asked in return was for Ajara and her highborn to summon his minions into Azeroth. It was a difficult request, even for such gifted sorcerers. Ajara and the highborn approached the challenge with great fervor. Legends say the queen helped her servants open a gateway for the Legion's agents. She used Sharastal to gather the Well of Eternity's energies and fuel the highborn's spell work. Through this portal, the first armor-clad demons spilled into Azeroth. Many more would follow. The Legion would march across the land, spreading fire and death, bringing war and cataclysm. The War of the Ancients ended in catastrophe. Ajara's hubris and abuse of power would lead to the destruction of the Well of Eternity. This enormous lake buckled in upon itself, eventually igniting a monstrous explosion that shattered the world's surface. Ajara watched these events unfold from her broken palace. She refused to believe that her dreams of paradise were dead, that the world she had once cradled in her palms was coming apart beneath her feet. Many of the highborn were just as delusional as the queen, and they remained at her side. As the ocean roared in to fill the void left by the destroyed Well of Eternity, Ajara raised Sharastal high. She wove a magical shield around herself and the highborn, saving them from being crushed by the colossal waves. But it was only a momentary reprieve. The howling ocean soon swallowed the queen, Sharastal, and her followers. Then it sucked them down and down into darkness. From a fragmented text called The Song of Scales, author unknown. They drifted into the abyss, but Ajara and her highborn remained unbroken. The darkness around them was absolute, and so the queen willed Sharastal to bring them light. It did. Ajara's and the highborn's blood ran cold, and so the queen willed Sharastal... Oh, I'm sorry. Lost my place there. And so the queen willed Sharastal to warm them. It did. Their lungs burned for air, and so the queen willed Sharastal to let them breathe the water. But it did not. The scepter could not save them. Oblivion spread its arms and beckoned the desperate highborn. As the ocean crushed the life from their bodies, ancient creatures stirred in the darkness. Their whispers flowed through the currents. Their powers wrapped tight around the queen and her servants. The highborn became something new, something more. A fleece of scales shimmered over their skin. Tails thrashed against the currents. The unknown entities made the queen and her followers one with the sea. They made them into the Naga. Spoiler, the creatures that's referring to is actually the old god N'Zoth. And you will actually see this if you check out the Warbringer's Ajara animation. Though Ajara's old empire was in ruins, she crafted a new one far from the light of the sun. The queen and her Naga servants created a capital, Nazjatar, at the bottom of the sea. With patience and cunning, they expanded their dominion over the oceans. It is even said that Ajara nurtured an alliance with the mysterious and powerful entities who had transformed them into Naga. We can now confirm that, by the way. As the years wore on, Ajara relied on Sharastal less and less. She still treasured the scepter, but she found it was more useful in the hands of her fearsome sea witches. These loyal servants wielded Sharastal as a weapon to spread the Naga's domain and crush all who opposed them. It was not long before the Naga sea witches learned to harness Sharastal as Ajara had. With a swipe of the scepter, they drove thousands of aquatic predators into a frenzy and unleashed them against troublesome sea giants. With a whispered incantation, they boiled Kavaldir raiders from the inside out and scattered their remains to the currents. When the sea witches were not wielding Sharastal, Ajara would often carry it at her side and reminisce about times long past. She still remembered Lord Xavius' promise. So long as she kept the scepter close, it would bring her prosperity and great power. The queen had lost much, but she was not dead. Far from it. In her heart, she knew that one day her empire under the sea would eclipse even that of the ancient night elves. One day, the world would be hers again, and she would not let it slip through her fingers a second time. I will say it's very nice foreshadowing for what does happen here in BFA, especially with the new patches for Nazjatar and the Eternal Palace raid. And what I saw was that this actually makes a reappearance, because of course she would want to go get it and bring it back. It doesn't matter if we use all of its power on the wounded Silithus. She just wants it, because she wants to keep it at her side, because of that promise that Xavius made. So, and I will say this little paragraph right here is definitely, and just for a little reference, I'm recording this on the day that the Eternal Palace has gone live. So people are, like, everybody is gearing up to do the Eternal Palace raid, so they can be able to go through here and be able to take on Queen Ajara herself. I'm very, very interested in, because I'm probably not going to be able to participate in that in a while, because I'm not done with some of the other stuff in BFA before I do that. But I am very curious to see what is going to happen either during or after that in terms of the story. So, that's the lore on the 3 artifact weapons for the Shaman in Legion, in case you are curious why in lore we would actually use this to amplify our power when it comes to the restorative powers of the water as a healing shaman. And you can probably understand also why the other 2 specs would be as powerful as they are with considering the other 2 weapons. So, and the quests to get these are actually pretty good. The quest to get this one takes place in Vajir, and it's kind of funny, especially when you encounter a giant who's like, ha ha ha, oh, stupid snake lady. You know, it's a really funny quest. So, anyways, when we come back, we will be taking a look at more weapons of lore from another class in Legion. Stay tuned.